Thank you very much, Wanda. It seems most appropriate that the last word today goes to a patient. Betty AnnBaker is Executive Director of Niagara Peninsula Homes, which is in Ontario, in Canada, which provides housing development services to nonprofit and cooperative housing groups. And she's also involved with a charity that provides job development services to unemployed women. She was one of 3 women named Woman of the Year in 2000 by Chatelaine, a well-known Canadian magazine. Today, her presentation is entitled Learning to Live with Blindness, a compelling account of the patient journey with macular degeneration.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today. I'm a bit nervous. I guess I would like to share with you some of my experiences with dealing with macular degeneration, and I'd like to share with you some things that I've learned and some things that I think we can do together in the future. My journey with macular degeneration started about 3.5 years ago. I was very active. I was coming home from a charity event, and I just happened to rub my left eye, and I noticed I couldn't see very well out of my right eye. I rubbed it again. I thought maybe, oh, I'm just overtired. And I rubbed it again, and I started to panic. I didn't get very much sleep that night, and then in the morning I just went through the yellow pages, called an optometrist. She took me right away, and it didn't take long for her to tell me, I think you have a disease called wet AMD. I thought, my God, what is that? And I started to panic right away. And she said, please don't get excited yet. I don't have the proper equipment. I don't know if that's what it is. You need to see an ophthalmologist. My GP got me into an ophthalmologist, and I guess it was about a week. And that was a very long week, I must tell you. And the ophthalmologist then said, no, you don't have wet AMD. You're way too young for that. I was about 54 at the time. He said it's probably just a blood vessel that burst because of high blood pressure or something like that. Just give it about 3 weeks and it'll probably go away. If it doesn't, give me a call and then we'll see what we can do. Well, I didn't wait the 3 weeks. My tension grew and grew and grew. And I decided to call back the optometrist who had told me about a retina specialist in the area. And so she got me into a retina specialist within about 2 weeks. Again, a very, very long wait. She told me to call them every day, and I did. And I cried, and finally they got me in. And I was in that chair maybe 2 minutes, and the retina specialist said to me, who I've grown to just adore, he said to me, I'm sorry, Betty Ann, but you have what's called wet macular degeneration in your right eye, and you have another form of the disease in your left eye called dry macular degeneration. My world started spinning. All I could hear, I remember hearing a roar in my ears while he was describing treatment options and, you know, that there was nothing that we could do for the dry. We had to treat the wet right away. You're going to lose your sight. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. So he was describing all these treatment options to me, and I really wasn't paying much attention. I just heard nothing could be done for the dry, and we had to do this procedure right away to save the sight that I did have. I think I was at 80/40 at the time that I got to see him. And it was called Visidyne, and all I could hear was $2,700 a treatment. You need 3 to 5 treatments, maybe more. You'll have to take out a loan. And I said, I don't have that kind of money. He said, doesn't matter. You'll have to mortgage your, do you have a house? I said, yes, mortgage your house. Get a loan. You just have to do this. I'm going to see you next week. I agreed, and it was just a whirlwind. I was trying to be brave. My son was in the room, and I didn't want to panic. I'm the sole breadwinner of the family, and I have been for some time. And I thought, I got home, and my son had to go away on a trip, and I was alone. And I got to tell you, I went into an incredible depression. I'm a very independent person. I always try and find solutions for everybody else. But here I was faced with this thing, and I didn't understand what it was. I had never heard of it before. And all I could see before me was going blind right away. And again, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who's lost their vision. I know that I could have a very full life if I lose my vision, but all I could see was what I was losing, and it was like a grieving process. I panicked. I felt this incredible pain of worry and loss. And all I could think of was, did I do this to myself? If I only hadn't worked so long, if I hadn't, if I had just gone on those diets that I promised to go on, if I wasn't so large, what did I do to do this to myself and my family? And I went and I spent, I lost a month's worth of work in the first, after the first diagnosis. And I was just full of guilt. I cried, I laid on the floor and cried. I was okay when my friends came. I was very brave. When my work colleagues came, I was brave. As soon as they left, I completely lost it. I really had incredible dark moments, more dark moments than I could ever imagine having in my life. And I decided that I had to do something. So I saw an ad actually for a lottery for CNIB, and I thought, yes, CNIB, I'll give them a call. And I gave them a call, and within a day they came, and I can't tell you what it meant to me to have them just put a hand on my hand and tell me it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're not going to lose your sight tomorrow. You'll always have your peripheral. You'll do this, you'll do that. And they showed me techniques, having the sun in the back of my back, and I couldn't believe how much I could read just by doing that. So I started to calm down. I was able to go back to work, and I started on my long road to treatment. My treatment has been an incredible roller coaster ride. From that very first moment of hearing $2,700 a treatment, I make a good living. I support my family, but I didn't have $2,700. I didn't even know if I had room on my credit card for $2,700. So my employer came forward, who's a small nonprofit, and they had a meeting, and they said, whatever you need, we're there for you. So they've been cash flowing it for me. A little bit I get back from my benefit package, but if they didn't do that, I couldn't have those Visidyne treatments at $2,700 a treatment, and most of it is not covered by my drug plan. I couldn't have the Avastin treatments, and now I couldn't have the blessed Lucentis treatments, which actually has restored some of my sight. I've been blessed. I had help, but I know so many people waiting in that waiting room. I've met so many people, especially women, who have worked hard all their lives, who've raised a family, who cannot afford treatment. I know nurses in my GP's office that has the same disease cannot have the treatment. So I felt angry that I could and they couldn't. I asked my GP what I could do to help. He told me to call the AMD Alliance. They got me in touch with CNIB, and I got involved in a lobby. And I was so ecstatic to find out that in Ontario, our government was going to pay for the Lucentis treatments that had restored some of my sight. And so I called the women that I know and said, you're covered. Well, the next morning we found out we weren't covered, that there was so many restrictions. We were able to get some of those taken away, but those of us under 65 still are not covered in Ontario. How is that right in Ontario, in Canada, where we say we have a universal health care system? How do we say that? And yet I know I can't afford treatment, and I make a living. How do people who are in the middle income, how do we afford this? We don't. We go without treatment. How do we get help with counseling? How do we do all these things when we don't have money? So, my jubilance about the Ontario announcement was short-lived, but as much as we are upset, we haven't given up. We keep calling our politicians who keep telling us our doctor's wrong, but we keep moving forward. what I've learned, I can't stress enough about treatment. We all deserve access. Well, no, everyone in the world deserves to save our sight. And we deserve to have affordable treatment options. And whether it's the government that pays or they partner with private sector, we have to do something in Canada and around the world. The other thing I've learned is that patients need to get involved. We want to get involved. The AMD Alliance and CNIB have given me a voice to be able to help other people, and it just makes me feel so much better that we're doing something, that we're involved. Get us involved. Tell us to call our GP and say, you know, let's suggest to people have regular exams. Get us to bring pamphlets to our doctors and say, please put these posters up or these pamphlets out. We can do those things. We can call our politicians. We can call our local press. Use us. We want to be involved. Teach us. The neat thing for me is that since this lobby, people have been calling my doctor's office wanting to talk to me who are newly diagnosed. It's given me such pleasure to be able to talk to them and do what CNIB did for me and just calm them down and say, it's okay, we're there for you, here's some resources, here's a, you know, call CNIB, call the AMD Alliance, there's people out there working for you. It gives me great pleasure, and it would give others pleasure to do that. We have to have aftercare supports. We have to have some counseling. I can't tell you what it means that to feel so alone and so desperate and so scared that you're going to lose everything, that you won't be able to drive. How can I keep my job in my area where there's no transportation system to speak of? I have to have a car, and I have to drive to keep my job, or to at least feel worthy in my job. I must tell you, I'm so grateful to all of you professionals, and I speak to you on behalf of every patient that I know. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. It means so much to know that there's hope out there, that we're not alone, there's people fighting on our behalf. I'm so grateful to my retina specialist who didn't let me give up, who told me to find the money, and somehow I did, and I'm very blessed to be able to say that I have been getting treatment. I had treatments last week. It was a radical treatment, and he did Visidyne and Lucentis at one time. That would have been a cost of $4,500 to me at once, of which I couldn't have done if my employer and a benefactor has come forward to help me. Every day, my life is like this. I wake up and I thank God, and I'm not a religious person, but I thank God I can see. I pray every day that you guys will find a solution, a cure for dry macular. I'm spending all this money to save the little sight I have in the wet, but I want to know that this dry is not going to go wet in the 5 years that is predicted. And my fate is in your hands, and those of us who have this disease, our fate is in your hands, and we thank you so much for all you do. Because of you, my beautiful son is what makes me live, and I know because of you, I will be able to see his face long into the future. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you do.